So, I'm sure by now you all think I'm crazy just by reading the title. You're like, oh, this Xbox is like the brand new generation. Like, it's supposed to play new gen games. Why would it be the Retro King? But I'd argue the next gen games aren't going to sell the system because you can play them anywhere. In terms of with their new, I think it's xCloud it's called, with their on PC, you can play it for Xbox One for a limited time. I think it's about a year, maybe 2 years, I can't remember, off the top of my head. You can play it on your phone now with xCloud, as I was saying there earlier. But I think backwards compatibility is what's going to sell this system. And I'm here to tell you why. Alright, let's start off with the idea. It's going to be super easy to collect stuff now with this Series X. Because if you think about it, right, for Xbox fanboys, right, they're already going to have a decent collection already. Like, if you've been having the Xbox One, the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, and the Xbox One, you will already have a decent collection, right? Because, well, I mean, you've been building it up for years. And even if you've only started from the 360 area, that's still like 10 years, or 15 years by the time, roughly, by the time this comes out, of collecting. Like, that's gonna be mad. You're gonna have a big, huge collection of games already. So it's gonna normalize collecting pretty much. You know, people who maybe weren't into collecting because they have lives, like they oh, sorry, that sounded real bad. They have other, like they have, let's say you're an accountant or you're a, I don't know, doctor or retail worker. You know, you don't have time to be spending money on like collecting rare stuff, right? But because the Xbox is backwards compatible with all these different systems from generations and generations ago, now all of a sudden you have a massive collecting library, and it might push some people over the edge to start collecting games. And also, not to mention, there's a lot of stuff you can easily start collecting, a lot of amazing franchises to start collecting, because there's a very big multi-plat library on the Xbox, because, you know, you've got your Call of Duties, your Assassin's Creed, your I was going to say Far Cry. I don't play that personally, but I know some people are big into it. Even your FIFAs. I know some people love collecting their FIFAs, although I don't see the point. And then, for that matter, all the old wrestling games, or hell, the Medal of Honor games, if you're into those, you know, the classic stuff before Call of Duty. You know, there's a bunch of different things you can pick up. The Halo games, although that's more going into their small number of exclusives, which makes it easy to pick up the entire exclusive library, which seems like they're going to stop now, because they bought Bethesda, so that might stop this generation. We might get a shit ton of Xbox exclusives, which isn't a bad thing either. But no, like, there's a lot of multiplats you can get, and the franchises you can start collecting or have already collected in the generations of Xbox that you can now have for the new Xbox and have continuing. Like, if you've been a massive Assassin's Creed fan and you've collected most of the stuff, imagine you look at your library and you're like, I can play all this on one system. So you decide to finish off the Assassin's Creed collection. Like, it could push someone over the edge, and that's what I'm saying. It's so easy now to become a collector because of this backwards compatibility. It might actually just completely normalize it. A lot more people will be collectors now than before. At least I think. And again, as I said, reiterating, it's like the collection that you're already going to have because of, let's say, being an Xbox fan, or even just picking up an Xbox, or you have two systems and you still have that collection. And maybe even, again, as I said, the small number of exclusives. You know, you could completely buy the entire exclusive library for the Xbox very easily compared to, like, let's say the PlayStation, or God forbid the Nintendo systems. Oh my God. I don't know if anyone can complete those exclusive collections, because nearly every game on most of their early systems were exclusives. And for those, like, let's be frank about this, right? A lot of people have moved to the digital era, right? And like have digital stuff. And I know that's like, oh well, that's the Star collection's over and stuff. But no, it's really handy because they provide digital versions of old games as well. If you're only starting out, like let's say you're a very young player, someone in you're 18 or you're 19 or something, and you were too young when the systems came out, the older systems came out, for example. You know, you can now get into them by buying the old games digitally if you're a digital only person, or if you live in an apartment, you know, because they don't have a lot of space. It's good for that stuff, you know. And not to mention, like, this is a big one. I know it's a big one for a lot of people. The slight visual upgrade, right? Like, they up-res stuff to 4K. A lot of the stuff, right? They up-res it, which is very, very nice. I gotta be honest, it's actually extremely nice, to be honest. Like, I love the idea that I can play let's say, the original Assassin's Creed in 4K. Like, that's cool. And I know I keep mentioning Assassin's Creed. I just finished playing the first game again, so it's on my mind a little bit, you know. So sorry if that's my big example when I bring stuff up. It's just on my mind a lot recently. Anyway, back on track, you know what I mean, like it's just really nice to have all these old games, thousands and thousands of old games being able to be up-resed to current gen hardware on, like, it's just really good. And I didn't even mention the Skate franchise. Like, Skate 3, man, people can play Skate 3 on the brand new systems. That's awesome. You know what I mean? And then we're moving off topic here, but this is also something that could really push them over the edge. It's not necessarily retro, but it could definitely sell their systems, and they do often have retro games. Game Pass, right? It's instant access to over 100 plus games for like a tenner a month, right? And if you're like, as I said before when I used the example of like, oh, you know, retail workers or people who have jobs and don't have a lot of time or money to spend on video games, you can literally just pay €10 a month like Netflix, and you can play over 100 games. And they keep changing out, which might not seem like a good idea for people who want to play that one multiplayer game all the time. But if you're looking at someone who's like, I don't have a lot of money, you may have a bit of time, you might be able to get through a game a month. Think of over the next 5 years. Let's say hypothetically, right, this quarantine keeps going on or something keeps going on with the coronavirus, and they get through, hypothetically, the 100 plus games, right? It keeps changing every few months, so they get brand new games. So it's never going to lose its value to them, and the exclusives will always stay in the Game Pass for the most part. So they're not, like, let's say you're a big fan of Halo, you're not going to lose access to that. And again, like, not even to mention the value. Like, I mean, I've been mentioning the value throughout this entire discussion, but it has a lot of value. And it's kind of futuristic, to be honest. Just like the Switch with its portability, hybrid aspect, Xbox have Game Pass, which is probably going to be the future of gaming. You're still going to have digital copies, you're still going to have physical media, you're still going to have people buying individual games. But if you think about it, if you want to make your kid happy, for example, but you can't be spending 60 quid on every single game they want to buy, $10 a month Game Pass, bam, your kid has got access to 100 plus games, and any game that's delayed, bam, it's on Game Pass. So he's set that way, you know what I mean? And the new companies are coming in all the time. You know, new companies love the idea and they're coming in. And again, as I mentioned before, you can get Game Pass on your phone, on the Xbox One, on your PC. Man, like, that's going to be great for consumers. I don't think it's necessarily great for, you know, selling a new system. But in terms of consumers, it's amazing. And again, that retro aspect is really going to push them forward, because they do have retro games on there. Like Saints Row 2, which I don't know is too retro, because I mean, it was like Xbox 360 days, but like, you know, they have old games on the Game Pass, so it even works for retro gamers if you want to game that stuff. And the more companies they gain access to, like they gained access to Bethesda. Imagine Skyrim on Game Pass. Imagine Oblivion on Game Pass. Imagine Fallout 3 on Game Pass. You know what I mean? It's fantastic, dude. It's absolutely fantastic. Of course, there is a lot of problems that could arise from all this. Like, there's one major problem I'm thinking of right now after all the information that's come out. It seemed like a good thing at the time, but a major problem with all this stuff is the Series S. And I know people are saying, throughout this entire video, you've been talking about how affordable things are and how great value things are for, like, let's say, retail workers or students. And I know I just repeated my examples again, but that's not important. You know, it's good, I'm not gonna lie. The fact that it's being cheap is good, but, you know, things like no disk drive is a big problem. I'm not gonna sit here and say it isn't, right? Because I can't buy a system with no disk drive. I have all that stuff I was saying about collections and building up your collections. That's gone out the window if you don't have a disk drive. Some people want to have their old games and play them, and they can't do that. Oh, I bought my copy of Injustice 1. Pardon me. I bought my copy of Injustice 1 on the Xbox 360, for example. Let's say you did that. And, I can't play it now because, the Series S I bought doesn't have a disc drive. Or, for example, like parents, again, they're like, oh look, Timmy said he wanted a Series X, but this Series S is said to play the same games, but it's cheaper, let's buy it for him, right? And it's digital only, and you buy them, let's say, Halo Infinite for Christmas or something. Like, that's gonna ruin a few kids' days, like, I'm not gonna lie. Or even a few parents, they're gonna feel ripped off. It's gonna cause Microsoft a lot of trouble. And, come on. And this goes for Sony too with their digital only system version, by the way. I have a problem with that, but this is an Xbox focused video, so we're not gonna get into that right now. Another thing, small fucking storage, dude. It's like Oh, like what? 512 gigabytes. Like what the fuck? That's not going to fly, dude. Like if you're a Call of Duty fan, like Modern Warfare takes up 100 plus gigabytes. That's 1/5 of your storage gone. Imagine what Cold Ops is gonna take up. Holy shit, man. Honestly, dude, I don't know what they were thinking. It should have been at least a terabyte, if not 2, if it's an all digital system. Like, and apparently, I don't know this a lot. Like, I recorded this before all this information was out, but apparently the fucking storage disk drives are gonna be like €200. Like, what the fuck? No way, dude. Like, that's really bad. And I know, like, and I'm saying all this now, and I really do mean it. There's a lot of bad stuff about the Series S and how bad its storage is. I think that's abysmal. And I just saw a headline now, so I don't know if it's fact, but I just saw a headline this morning about sub HD, so like not proper HD for the Series S. That's gonna be horrendous if that's true. Now, don't quote me on that, because honestly, that could be like fake. I don't know. I just saw the headline and thought I'd add it in here. Do your own research on that particular topic. The rest of the stuff I know for fact, but the problem with the sub HD one, I don't. So I'd say check that out. See if it's 100% true. But that's not good, man. If even half of this stuff about the Series S is true, which I know 99% of it besides the sub HD is definitely true, that's not good for Microsoft or good for the consumer, particularly the storage part and the all digital part. I don't like the idea of an all digital, especially if we're doing backwards compatibility. You know what I mean? And that is going to cause problems, and they're probably going to backtrack on the backwards compatibility for like the slim consoles or the pro consoles. And I know Microsoft don't do slim. Actually, I'm going back on that because the Xbox One S was a slim console, but that was because their design was too chunky and they needed to do it. But I don't think they're going to do a slim version for the Series X, because that's what the Series S is, right? But it's all fucking digital, which is the big problem with that.